Welcome to Protect, Suicide Prevention Training Podcast for healthcare professionals. I'm Manan, consultant psychiatrist, founder, and head of faculty at Progress Guide.
Hi everyone, it's Mahi, your Protect podcast host. For all of those who emailed us about the key images and messages PDF, I hope you got that. If you're still interested, it's never too late, so send us an email to admin@progress.guide. So Manan, what have you been up to this week? I know you had the US Suicide Prevention Summit.
Yeah, the US Suicide Prevention Summit, that went very well. As always, was over time. We had over 2,500 people who attended the summit. I was the last person who spoke in the US Suicide Prevention Summit. So yeah, that was great. I talked about digitizing safety. So yes, talked about the app and how we have tried to create repeating patterns within the app and how the entire focus is on trauma-informed care and how trauma can disrupt people's memory. So people often don't even register, so they don't retain, so they can't recall, so they don't use their safety plan in their moment of crisis, and how the app in its design flow, and this is what we worked with the techies from Adamo around how could we create a logic flow so that we can bypass all of that, so that they do use their safety plan. So that's what I kind of highlighted, the conversations that need to happen in order to actually make the app relevant, person-centered, situation-specific safety planning. That's what we are going for.
And you also had a talk at the Princess Alexandra Hospital?
Yes, so that's at my regular work. So it was the PAH Symposium, and we had our keynote speaker, Sydney Decker. And it was actually a bit daunting to follow someone like Sydney Decker. I don't know how much you know about Sydney Decker, but he's a stalwart in the field of restorative just culture. And Stanford University have highlighted him as one of the most influential researchers after Isaac Newton.
Wow.
So I was following him with the talk, so no pressure there, I guess. But yeah, it was a really good talk because we were presenting data relating to the well-being team and the work that they have been doing in terms of creating magic through the power of lived experience, as well as professional expertise when they come together, and some really, really good results, very positive results that have come through, which we, of course, will be publishing soon. So we are writing up the studies. So that was a really good talk. And inevitably, I got sidetracked because I was talking after Sydney. So I started talking about the current system pressures and how there at Princess Alexandra Hospital, we have been trying to embrace the whole idea of restorative just culture. But yeah, that was a good talk as well.
And who was the audience for that?
So the audience for that was the general people working in mental addictions and mental health services in Metro South. So that was the primary audience. But, yes, there was 2,500 people for the US Suicide Prevention Summit, but it's never like performing at home in front of your own team as well. And the well-being team was in the audience, and they got a massive applause from the crowd for all the work. I was just presenting the data of all the hard work they had done. So yeah, thanks to the team, and special mention and special shout out to them. I know this is separate. This is from Progress Guide, and there I am working for Queensland Health. But of course, I'm just one human being. But it is such an awesome achievement for the team. And when we publish the data will speak for itself. And there was some, we're doing the thematic analysis at the moment of the qualitative study, narratives, those are just, stories are just data with a soul. And there are some beautiful stories of patients and staff who have felt supported by the wellbeing team. So yeah, amazing results over there.
And any other upcoming events?
So I need to get this right. Otherwise, Dr. Pauki would have me for this. So 8th of September, I'm going to be doing a World Suicide Prevention Day special webinar. So this World Suicide Prevention Day is on the 10th of September. This is something that we are coordinating with the Malaysian colleagues. So Dr. Pauki is organizing this webinar, and it is based on the theme of the World Suicide Prevention Day, which is all around changing the narrative, start the conversation. So Yes, you can join in. So it's 8th of September, midday, Australian Eastern Standard Time. So Brisbane time is midday, 12 noon. If you're joining from Malaysia, that would be 10 a.m. So it's a 2-hour webinar, and I would be talking around leadership for suicide prevention. What is it that we need? And I'll be using the process model, produce creative, effective, simple solutions, to show how we can incorporate values into the leadership that we bring as we try to form suicide prevention pathways and work towards zero. So that's coming up. Oh, actually, before that, I've got on the 4th of September, I've got King's College London, 11th of September, King's College London as well. And it does get very busy at this time of the year with...
For World Suicide Prevention Week Day?
Well, it's a day, World Suicide Prevention Day, yeah. And like whoever is listening in, you must do something in your organization to mark World Suicide Prevention Day. And of course, 12th of September is Are You OK Day as well in Australia. So it's a big thing everywhere in workplaces, just getting the conversation started. So yeah, that's coming up. I guess a shameless plug, one of the ways you can change the narrative is to get people to listen to the podcast. So as we said, I think we've been, what did you say, 95? I think I checked the other day, it's 96 countries now. So we're steadily growing. So keep spreading the word around the podcast so that people can listen in.
And next week we will have a special guest, John Bell, who is the charity co-founder and director at Walking for Hope. John lost his son, Jake, in 2020 when he was 15. And if he would be still alive today, he would be my age.
Yeah, that's a somber thought, isn't it? So, Jake was only 15. I've actually already recorded the episode, but I'm kind of saving the episode for the World Suicide Prevention Day. John has some beautiful messages of self-compassion to give. Don't want to steal his thunder. So tune in, not this Sunday. This Sunday will be this episode number 51, so 50 plus 1. But it will be the episode after that. That's when we would screen John Bell's story and his journey of recovery and post-traumatic growth and hope and healing after he lost his son. So, and it's a reminder that there is more to do because every life matters. People get very worked up about the term zero, but if we are working towards zero, to John, what number would be the right number? If it's a family member, yes, the number you want to be working towards is zero. So, so do tune in for that episode. So that will be during the in the lead up to the World Suicide Prevention Day. I've got another very exciting guest lined up in the week after that as well, but more about that later.
I think we have some unfinished business from episode 50. So today we're going to go over Aspire, which has 6 chapters, right?
That's absolutely spot on. Yes, unfinished business. So shall we get on with it?
Yeah.
So Aspire, 6 chapters, Aspire. So I think we should do a quick recap that Protect has 3 large modules. It's a core module, which lays down the foundation of Protect, the foundations of relational safety, and the Assess module, as the name suggests, it's all about the assessment process. How do you strike a balance between the assessor's need to gather data and the person's need to tell their story, to feel validated by telling their story. Okay, both of those needs need to be met, and Assess, the 6 chapters in Assess, is all about striking that delicate balance. So those are the first 2 modules, and the third module, the Aspire module, this provides the skills for the recovery journey, the skills and competencies needed to support an assets-based recovery journey. At its core is acceptance in the practitioner that all thoughts and actions taken by the person in suicidal distress is a response to the psychological pain. This is a prerequisite for the partnership ahead. We talked about Sao Bono and Ubuntu in the last episode. The core of acceptance enables a ring of actions, which can be thought of in a chronological sequence with safety planning in the midst of a crisis, say in the emergency department, followed by the delivery of person-centered care from an interventions menu, along with monitoring of progress and resilience building for the future.
And the relation to safety planning?
Well, safety planning, this is all about safety planning, really. It's the golden thread that weaves through Aspire, right? So builds together all the chapters together. You'll find safety kind of raising its head in every single chapter.
So in our last episode, we did the first 11 chapters. So this is chapter 12, Acceptance to Actions. Share a journey of guided discovery.
Yes, so this is about guided discovery of the unknown. So those of you who have already got the PDF, you will see that the key image here is one of Johari's window. So that's that's the message around this guided discovery of the unknown. So adversity can be emotionally very painful. Pain is nature's attempt to communicate that something deeply meaningful is amiss. If it was not important, then it would not cause this much hurt and pain. So rejecting reality is like a cloud that surrounds the pain, interfering with one's ability to see it clearly. It transforms pain into suffering. Often there is not much that can be done with the past or present, and one might end up fighting it and reacting to it. But there is always something to be done in the way in which one responds to it. And in this kind of key image, which is one of Johari's window, we talk about a journey of shared discovery. So this chapter is all about that journey of shared discovery.
And the relation to safety planning?
So support the person on a journey of guided discovery. You use motivational interviewing strategies. So in this chapter, we actually cover motivational interviewing as well as SOLVE, which is the solution-focused therapy. That's where we beg, borrow, steal from. So MI is directional, not directive, and involves advanced listening. Help the person see that if one wants to influence current reality through one's response, it requires them first to accept reality, because reality is what it is. So safety planning is very difficult to do if a person is still fighting that reality. So creating room for acceptance, whether you take a DBT-based approach or an MI-based approach or an ACT-based approach, acceptance is not about giving up or giving in. In fact, exactly the opposite. Acceptance creates grounding from which further actions can be taken. So that's what this chapter is about. Draws from a number of modalities, and the solution-focused work is also embedded in this specific chapter.
Next is chapter 13, which is on safety planning. Don't rush to the plan. Take time to build relational safety.
So in this chapter, we have got the 4 rings of safety planning: presence, process, practice, plan. So that's what is laid out as the key image. So have a look at that. So your presence in the person's life is healing. The journey is as important as the destination. So being understood by a fellow human being engenders hope and relational safety. Take time. Don't rush to the plan. Let the person connect the dots. Ask the questions that will support a journey of guided discovery. Take time. Don't rush to the plan. That's the key message, really. Plan for agency and draw on the person's strengths and assets. Keep your practice solution-focused and collaborate. Again, take time. Don't rush to the plan. And of course, as the whole chapter is based on the SAFE framework, scenario planning, access to means, alcohol and other drugs. The F in SAFE is for family, friends, and follow-up, where we do the circles of trust, the love exercise, and then the essential plan or the emergency plan. That's what the entire chapter is about. It's also the basis of the Safe Life Guide mobile application. The ladder of distress that you see in the Safe Life Guide is based on this chapter. Whether you do the safety plan on paper or digitally, remember to capture the discussion in detail. A person in suicidal distress will not retain much. So capture the discussion and collate it on the safety plan, whether that be on paper or on the app itself.
Chapter 14 is about person-centered planning. Embrace the dignity of risk and the right to fail.
So this is all about shifting the balance of power. And the image here is the 4 Ps of person-centered care planning, which we designed with the Yale program for recovery with Larry Davidson's group. So the 4 Ps of practice, they are the philosophy, the practice, the plan, and the purpose. So those are the 4 Ps. So we talk a lot about shifting from the top to tap. I think that's in Empathy in Action in chapter 5. So it plays out all the way through. So person-centered care can only grow out of a culture that fully embraces recovery, self-determination, and community inclusion, believing that people can and do recover, believing that people can and should have choice in the decisions that impact their treatment and their lives, and believing that a meaningful life in the community is a fundamental right and not something that must first be earned through acts of compliance or demonstration of clinical stability. These beliefs are the bedrock on which person-centered care planning must be built.
And what does this have to do with safety planning?
Well, of course, it's your care plan, so safety plan has to be embedded in it. Often people in suicidal distress are overcoming current or past trauma. So adopt a trauma-informed approach to safety planning. Attempt to return the locus of control to the person through partnership, collaboration, choice, and trust. And these 4 P's of person-centered care planning does exactly that. It sets the stable base in which we interact with the person, creating choice and collaboration, which is essential for trauma-informed care. And we want to go from person-centered care to person-centered situation-specific safety planning. That's where Protect is a step apart from all the other different trainings, which are very generic in terms of identifying internal coping and external coping strategies, where we want to go into not just what is relevant to the person, but which would be the most relevant internal coping strategy in which situation. And this really builds that. And you can only get to that through collaboration and by giving choice and creating trust and partnership.
Next is chapter 15, which is about integrating interventions. Adopt the AIMS approach to target the source of pain.
So this is, as the chapter's title says, integrate interventions, and the key image here is the one for the etiology grid. You have got your 4 P's here. Some people like to increase it to 5 P's. So the 4 P's are predisposing, precipitating, perpetuating, and protective. Some people also include another P called the presenting. So that's kind of, you can put it on X or Y, it doesn't matter. And you have biological, psychological, and social. Some people also include things like cultural and spiritual or environmental. People often put more columns or rows along the way. And we are saying that adopt the AIMS approach. Now, what is the AIMS approach? It's a common language to think, talk, type, and take action. So map out the person's pain using the etiology grid. The assessment should reveal the cause so that your interventions treat the cause, not just the symptom. When selecting from the interventions menu, pay close attention to the etiology grid. Remember that debt relief does not come in a tablet format, nor does the antidote for loneliness after a relationship breakup. That also doesn't come as in a tablet format. It's not an antidepressant which is going to sort those things out. Think biopsychosociocultural, monitor progress, and have clarity on when it is appropriate to step up and what is needed to help the person step down. So we ask people to think about the 4 letters of AIMS. A for assessment. What further assessment is needed? I for interventions. What further interventions are indicated? M for monitoring. Is the level of monitoring appropriate? And what is the best setting to do this monitoring in? Who is responsible for what, when, where, and how? And S for step up or step down. What are the outstanding actions prior to me stepping this person down? Or is the situation such that we need to step up the level of care?
And what does this mean for safety planning?
So chipping away at the source of pain using evidence-based interventions is the best plan one can make to enhance safety. Be explicit with the person regarding the treatment plan and how it will bring pain relief. That builds hope. Request them to collaborate and participate in the process for the plan to be most effective.
Chapter 16 is about resilient reframe. Enhance monitoring using psychological formulation.
So here we beg, borrow, steal from CBT. As you know, all the kind of T's with solution-focused therapy, cognitive behavior therapy, dialectical behavior therapy, acceptance and commitment therapy, interpersonal therapy, motivational interviewing. We take from every, we are non-denominational. So this is based completely on CBT. Beck's Institute often say they take a very CBT-based approach right in the midst of a crisis. My experience has been that if you challenge thoughts when people are in crisis, that comes across as incredibly invalidating. So I tend to reserve any CBT-based approaches for later on in the piece. Early on, when people are in crisis, I generally tend to take a very acceptance-based approach, either ACT or kind of the radical acceptance or DBT or an MI-based approach, and roll with the person's ambivalence. I don't tend to challenge people's thoughts early on, so that's a message I should give. The whole idea of this is further on, when the person has moved on and you're spotting cognitive errors, you can make it safer through personalization. So this is a CBT-based formulation chapter, okay? So it can help people understand their unique scenarios that they are finding challenging. So the image over here is the safer wheel: scenarios, appraisal, feeling, endurance, and response. And shifting from, unconscious stress reactions to conscious stress responses. How they think about them, when they feel triggered, what feelings arise, what current strategies do they use to endure what life has brought to them, and if overwhelmed, how do they react? So the goal is to help the person develop insight and move from unconscious stress reactions to conscious stress responses.
And the relation to safety planning?
So each monitoring event is an opportunity to enhance the safety plan. The initial safety plan would have a behavioral focus, as I was mentioning, as the person's distress is too overwhelming to think through thoughts and feelings. However, this can be addressed in follow-up appointments that are meant to monitor progress. So the safety plan can be bolstered using the safer formulation, particularly if shared with loved ones. So often in training, we say, make safe safer. So in SAFE, we had scenario planning, access to means, alcohol and other drugs, family, friends follow-up, and the essential or the emergency plan. Here we have a formulation-based approach: safer, scenarios, appraisal, feelings, endurance, and response, shifting from unconscious stress reactions to conscious stress responses.
And the last chapter in Aspire is Enact Values: what helps, what harms. Underpin recovery with personal values.
So this is the chapter which is the basis for the Hope View in the Safe Life Guide mobile application, right? So past reflections to aid future plans. That's kind of the key message. And we have got the diagram here. The key image is relating to this simple question: what helps, what harms? Did it help or did it harm? Will it help or will it harm? Will the actions take me towards the person I want to be, or will that take me away from the person I want to be? So underpin actions and the people and pursuits in your life with values. The goal of the Hope framework is to support a person to take values-guided actions rather than pain-guided desperate measures. Explore the Hope View on the Safe Life Guide mobile application to incorporate values into all that you do. So this is based on acceptance and commitment therapy, builds in mindfulness into the whole process of how you respond to what life is throwing at you, creating room for it. So Aspire starts with acceptance to actions, chapter 12, and actually ends with acceptance as well. Acceptance is like freedom. It frees you up to deal with the situation at hand.
And the safety planning top tip?
So the help harm question is a simple but solid strategy to compassionately challenge or appraise decisions one takes in crisis. It can highlight a range of internal and external coping strategies that the person can use proactively instead of strategies that might bring relief in the short run, but compound emotional pain long term. So as I said, it's an ACT-based values framework will enhance resilience. Just a simple example. So if you're feeling really stressed, maybe having a night out and drinking till you pass out is a way of dealing with the problem. You're not thinking about it anymore. Mm-hmm. But next morning, the problems haven't gone away. You also have a hangover and a headache because you haven't dealt with the problems and the alcohol is still in your system. Mm-hmm. So something that might feel helpful in the short term might actually be harmful in the long run. And this is quite a simple, effective way of asking that question around: did it help? Did it harm? Does it help? Does it harm? Will it help? Will it harm? Mm-hmm. And that's a very effective way of doing safety planning because you're collaborating with the person, taking their views into account.
So that finishes off Aspire?
That finishes off Aspire and all the key messages that we wanted to give, which is brilliant, actually. So I hope all those people who wrote in, texted me, messaged me, or sent emails saying do summary chapters. Essentially, over 2 episodes, we have got the key messages in images which you can now use. Just listen to it. And again, feel free to email us, admin@progress.guide, and we will send you this beautifully crafted PDF as part of the work that we're doing in the lead up to the World Suicide Prevention Day. And they can get those images on Instagram as well. Just search for Progress Guide.
Yep.
So that brings us to the end of today's session. Again, thank you so much for listening. Keep spreading the word, and remember to organize something for World Suicide Prevention Day in your organization. And if you aren't doing much on the Sunday, the 8th of September, 10 a.m. Malaysian time or 12 noon Australian Eastern Standard Time, feel free to join in for the webinar. You can email us. We will send through the joining details as well. So, and it will be available. I think it's available on social media. We should put it on the Instagram.
On Instagram, yeah.
So people can get the details from there as well.
Thank you for listening, everyone.
Have a good day.